What's up, guys? It's Stevie. We won the Anime Expo YCS. Yippee! It was such a hard event with so much goddamn Yubel. Anime Expo had a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament on Saturday, and we won. We played Labrynth, the objective best deck. I think it's actually really good into the hand trap meta right now, as well as into the new format because Sex Cannon is so broken. And just like every single Konami event, Anime Expo coming in clutch with the best prizing money can buy, an exclusive playmat and nothing else. Fun fact, this kanji says Anime Expo, which is very funny. But yeah, it was 6 rounds, Labrynth Fest deck, and let's get into the deck profile. So, first we played One Lovely. If you don't know CR of her, get a job at Starbucks. Have to get this deck max rarity, because white woman, am I right? Don't open her. She's the worst one, but she's also the best card. This is the super duper trap heavy variant, so getting her onto the board as soon as possible is super duper important, because recycling your power traps is very, very essential to how you're able to create board states where your opponent just can never ever get back into it. Next, we're playing 2 Lady. Most of the combo builds are playing 1, because SP is seeing a lot more play now. There's a lot more banishing effects. Sometimes the Flamberge can put her into the spell trap zone after they break apart your board. Having 2 in this deck, especially because this is the trap version and you have trouble OTKing and you need to get a lot more access to your traps, she is very, very important to your overall game plan. And if you don't own QCRs of her, get a job at Starbucks. Next, we play 3 CR, Ariane. Again, if you don't own CRs of Ariana, you know the phrase, get a job at Starbucks. Best normal summon in the deck, because she's the only normal summon in the deck. Surge is a card. Wow, that's cool. I mean, yeah, consistency, who would have guessed? That's good. She's on level 4, which is really good, because she matches up very nicely with the 3 Arias. She is the only hand trap that we are playing anywhere in the deck. We don't play it in the main. We don't play any other hand traps in the side. No Imperm, no Ash, no Nibiru, no Furniture, no nothing. It's just Arias and a Dream. Mainly, she is the quote-unquote best hand trap in the game, in the sense where she's kind of hard to interact with, because what she does isn't even hand trap related. She just sets some random bullshit power trap and you kind of just win the game on the spot. She helps quote-unquote insulate some of your Labrynth plays by being in a free body who you can resend. You can keep her in the hand alongside another power trap if you want to play around stuff like Duster or Twin Twister or Lightning Storm or whatever. So if you do get Storm for your soul, you can just go Arias, set the new trap, and you're kind of not in the worst position. You can use Ariana and her to make Chaos Angel. Overall, super broken if you do draw it. Pray to God you don't open more than 1. Next, more engine. 3 Welcome. Because this is not the combo variant with a bunch of furniture, playing 3 Welcome is essential, just because you do need as much engine as possible, or as many ways to see engine as possible. Obviously, opening too much engine in this deck is a very big problem, but pray to God you don't flood out. And of course, greatest card in the game, 3 Ultimate Rare, Big Welcome. If you don't own Ultimate Rares, get a job! Same goes for the QCRs of the welcomes. This card is so broken. I don't think anyone has ever been oh, well, Big Welcome's kind of overrated. It kind of is if you don't have any monster on the board. It has a lot less impact, but being able to have a bounce, being able to search any single card, being able to summon out of the hand or graveyard, just the utility that this card gives is absolutely insane. This is literally a +4 for a reason. Love this card so much. Next, our pot. We're playing 3 Pot of Duality. You could be playing Pot of Prosperity, but I think that this deck, because of the Sex Cannon lines, Prosperity blind becomes a little bit more just kind of iffy. And I just like my Sex Cannon being online as much as possible and not really punting myself out of situations. So I think that Pot of Duality, especially for the stun variant, is definitely the best one. Usually, it's not going to be live. Usually, you're not going to be special summoning on turns 1 or 2. On turn 3 beyond, obviously, if you draw this, it's a little bit iffy. But most of the time, this is either going to be an opener or you're just never going to see it for the entirety of the game. I think that overall, Pot of Duality doesn't really have any nombos, and I'm a big, big fan of it. And by the way, if you don't own Astral Pack ultis, you know the phrase. 3, Trap Trick. We're into the Power Trap section now. We're playing a lot of these. Shout out to Zach, by the way, who lent me his comments because I don't own these. These might be rares. I don't know. I wish I had CRs. I should get a job at Starbucks. But, Trap Trick, this card just says, grab any trap card from your deck. A lot of the times, you're going to be grabbing Engine, actually. You're going to be banishing like a small welcome or a big welcome and setting that during like your opponent's end phase in order to get your gears turning and being able to just churn out a bunch of Engine. And if you already have a bunch of Engine, this just says grab any power trap you want to just completely nuke your opponent. Usually, it's going to be extremely matchup dependent, but the safe ones are this guy, 3 Daruma Cannon. This is probably the best or second best power trap right now. Being able to like Book of Eclipse Snake Eye for 4, being able to survive turn after decks against decks like Branded Despia or even Yubel, and being sure that you just don't accidentally kill yourself after they go to like the battle phase and you have a lovely attack and you're just like, this card is just an amazing offensive tool and defensive tool for both insulating your own plays and just being able to break apart your opponent's board by just like, you know, Book of Eclipse. Card's crazy. Also, this card shits on Tenpai. That's the actual reason we play that. And of course, Simultaneous Equation Cannon. If you haven't watched the video or gone a PhD in mathematics, go watch it. But this card basically just says, if you resolve this card, you banish every card on your opponent's board, which this entire extra deck, by the way, is completely built around resolving this. And with Yubel being way more prevalent within the meta, we actually adjusted it like a tiny bit. We added a level 6 fusion. But this card, I think, is probably the only thing that keeps Labrynth relevant within the metagame overall. I think that Labrynth has a big problem in the prior to Sex Cannon being discovered, in the sense where they didn't really have any good board clears versus decks like Yubel or Snake Eye, because a lot of the banishing traps were either very mid or they were like kind of 1-for-1-y. But this card just being a board nuke and not triggering stuff like Nightmare Throne because it banishes it, or being able to remove multiple cards, I think is very, 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 very good. And in matchups where it's not that good, like think of like Smelty Sprite, or maybe decks with like a bunch of level 4s, think like Chilliman or Super Heavy Samurai, this card is completely fine to side out. This card is actually good versus Chilliman too. Who'd have guessed? Now for like the okay traps, 2 Torrential. It's Torrential. It's sometimes really, really good. This is the card that shits on bad decks the best, or stuff like Tenpai. Like if they synchro in the battle phase, you just go like Torrential Tribute and win the game on the spot. Dogmatica Punishment. This is definitely the weakest of the traps in this deck, in my opinion. I mean, you're usually just sending Entis. It's a 2-for-1 pop. It's good versus like low, when they normal summon low and they set the barrier, and you're just like punishment pop both, and you kind of pray that they don't have anything else because they're playing Voiceless. But I mean, Voiceless is a scam deck. They always have it. This is probably the most cuttable one, by the way. Next, Triple Solemn Strike. Shouts to Zach again. I don't own these, so he just let me some out of his bulk. Greatest guy to ever do it. Solemn Strike, it's a good card. It's a really great card for not only disrupting your opponent's plays, because you gotta like Solemn Strike like a Cannahawk and just win the game on the spot, but also it's very, very good as acting as a pseudo Cult by the Grave when you go first. Like just setting 4 welcomes, like just setting a bunch of welcomes, and your opponent, like you interrupt your opponent, and they're like, oh, this Ash Blossom about to go crazy, and then you big welcome, and then they go like, haha, Ash Blossom. You hit it with the strike, and you win the game on the spot because they hand loot themselves for 1. The Lovely's gonna hand loot themselves again, or pick another card apart. Strike, I think, is just very, very poggers overall. Triple Skull Drain. If you don't own ultis, you know the phrase. Skull Drain, who gives a shit? This card says win the game, and like 80% of matchups you resolve it. Awesome. Rivalry of Warlords. We only play Fiends. Well, almost. Anyways, the non-Fiends, we are playing 2 Runic Flashing Fire. It's a good enough removal card for when you go second. Being able to pop stuff like Promethean Princess is pretty nice, but also being able to go Flashing Fire to protect yourself against like Lightning Storm or Duster, by summoning the Hugin, as well as protecting yourself against like Black Rose Dragon. Sometimes you could just bait your Tenpai opponent to just blowing up their own board and putting themselves on like better have Kaiman, I guess. And then you can just book them in the Chandra they summon. Very, very awesome. This card is good enough. I don't like maining Judgments because that is just way too much of a going first card. I don't like having to pay like 4,000 life points in a format where every deck can basically OTK you if you're anywhere underneath 6,000 life points. So I think Flashing Fire is definitely the best defensive/offensive card you could be playing. I kind of look at it in the same vein as something like Tribute to the Doomed. Right, onto the extra deck. We're playing the one non-sex cannon target, Chaos Angel. I cut this originally for Typhon, but I think that Typhon is just overall not that good in the new format. Not every monster is going to have over 3,000 attack. Sometimes the Typhon's just not even going to be super duper relevant. Typhon sometimes might just get popped by Princess. Typhon was a lot better when Borreload Savage and Baron de Fleur were in the format, but now that those cards are, banned, I think Chaos Angel is definitely the best one. You should be playing, it helps you remove a lot of stuff. It forces Tenpai, if you just summon this guy in defense, to be like, better have Droplet or Imperm. And of course, it's an ulti, so you know the phrase, you don't get the ulti. Alright, time to get to the simultaneous equation lines. So, level 6 fusion, level 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. These are your fusion levels, 1 through 6. Millennium Eyes, it's a level 1 fusion. You should be playing the Lyrilusk 1 because it's got 1,000 attack. It's slightly better for Dogmatic No Punishment, but if you do have to play, but any level 1 really works, doesn't really matter. Hugin, you play for protection. Munin, Scam Time, gain 1,000 life points, it's crazy. It's also level 3. Level 4, you play Entis because you have it as a Dogmatica punishment target, and sometimes you don't really need a level 4. Anytime you're able to send a level 4, 95% of the time you're able to send like a 3 or a 5 in order to resolve your Sex Cannon. Level 5, we have Barox. This card should definitely be any other level 5. But again, like, it doesn't really fucking matter. Just find the highest level 5 monster and play it. But I chose Barox because, look at this fucking guy. Ugly as shit. And level 6, we have Baphomet. This level 6 could either be Garura or Baphomet, but I like Baphomet a marginally tiny bit more because of the influence of like SP Little Knight. And sometimes you go into Lovely Lady, and the first thought your opponent does is like, I'm going to make an SP Little Knight and banish that Lovely and just get it out of the game forever. And Baphomet gives you a little bit of insulation versus that. But if you want to play Garura, that is also completely fine. It is literally the player preference of the year award. Again, you don't have to play the level 6. You could just play a Typhon or a second Chaos Angel or something like that. But I do think playing a level 6 is very important because having a level 6 fusion allows you to use simultaneous equation cannon way more easily versus Yubel. Because Yubel has very high monster levels, and usually they're going to have a lot of cards on the board, so being able to hit these high star thresholds against that deck, which has 9, 10s, and 11s, is going to be very, very important. So that's why I am doing it like that. Alright, onto the Xyzes. Spoilers, you're never going to summon these, except like 1 in a million. Caesar and Beatrice. This card is definitely getting banned. Caesar's probably the best one because you can actually make it with 2 Fiends, aka 2 Ariuses. Dark Requiem XYZ. It's got a bunch of attack points. Pleiades. Who cares? It's funny. It's the only rank 5 I own outside of Azathoth. Bagushka and Dugaris, rank 4s. You could technically make them. And Xyz Armor Torpedo and Acid Golem. You are never making this guy, but they've got very high attack points for Dogmatica Punishment, which is sometimes relevant. And finally, onto the side deck. 1 Coup Clock. I would be maining this card, but Coup Clock is only very, very good in matchups where you're either going first against a deck that auto loses the back row, or you have very specific trap cards in your deck that are almost auto wins versus very specific matchups. The easiest I could be is like versus Yubel, like simultaneous equation cannon, it is very, very important to have cards like that online as soon as possible and in rotation. So I think that siding Ku Klux into those specific matchups is very important, but I don't think it's good enough to main, unfortunately. We played one Freezing Curses. I don't know. I saw the one guy from the UK play it, and I'm like, yeah, I guess it makes sense as a third defensive card. This could also just be a second Ku Klux. I'm not completely sold on this. I never sided into it at all. I guess it's just a third runic spell for defensive plays going first, but I'm not really a huge fan of it. Play an anti-spell. This card is real good. This card's I won for a reason. Again, QCR, you know the phrase. One Eradicator. This card is fine. Unfortunately, not a lot of decks right now are playing spells at such a high quantity in the same capacity as, like, you know, something like when Branded was super relevant, or Kashtira, where that deck was like 80% spells. I think Eradicator is definitely one of the more cuttable cards, and could probably be replaced by Molchummy or like Black Goat Laughs in the future. I'm not entirely sure on what this card's position is, but what I am sure should stay in are 2 copies of Ice Dragon's Prison. This card is very, 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 very good. It's great at answering Yubel. It's great at answering very specific Snake Eye boards. It's very good at answering like Voiceless Voice sometimes, as acting like as the world's worst Stevie Crow. This is just a very nice card. Every time I resolved this card, I won, and I resolved it a lot. So, very happy with this card's performance as a whole. Triple Evenly Matched. I guess it's a hand trap, kind of. Less of a hand trap, more of a board breaker, but you guys get the idea. This deck has a horrible time going second, not because this deck, you know, can't, you know, just like set 5 and break a board on the following turn, but because against certain matchups that have Omni Negates or extremely layered interaction with like a bunch of pops. Think of something like Branded, where they're able to just go into Guardian Chimera and just like blow up your back row, and then you're very sad. I think that Evenly Matched is very, very good into these specific matchups. And again, this has great applications versus Snake Eye, obviously, because holy shit, Snake Eye cannot play around evenly, and you just like loop them for 7 and you feel amazing. But I think Evenly is just a very, very good card. When Desira comes out and all the Fiendsmith stuff, might be better, might be worse. Not entirely sure. Definitely have to test that. Might play Lord of the Heavenly Prison. Who knows? Deep Barrier! Yippee! I love Yu-Gi-Oh! Fun gameplay! Bad chest! I love calling fusion and winning the game on the spot. I was thinking about cutting this card for info, but Gimmick Puppet might be a deck. So, depending on how real Gimmick Puppet is, and how real Tenpai is compared to like Snake Eye, Fiendsmith, this card's definitely either gonna get cut or maybe like knocked down to 2. But in certain matchups, you win the game. And again, if you don't have QCRs, you know the phrase. And finally, Solemn Judgment. We're playing a trap deck. Want to protect ourselves from Duster, Lightning Storm, Cosmic Cyclone, whatever. You guys get the idea. Solemn Judgment, broken card. And yeah, that's everything. Again, matchups today. Well, matchups like 2 days ago were Yubel. It was Dinomorphia, Yubel, something. Oh, it was like Orchist, Yubel, and then Tenpai. And I won every single one of those matches 2-0. I think I lost half the dice rolls, and I won half the dice rolls. Who could have guessed that? And yeah, this deck's good. It's fun. Shoutouts to Anime Expo, and shoutouts to Zach for lending me some of the cards. And of course, shoutouts to Rosalind for being the camera woman for this deck profile, as well as watching me beat up kids by setting 5 pass. Thank you guys for watching. Like, subscribe, and do your math homework. Bye-bye.